Now we're on. Excuse me. Before we get started, we're going to get just a few minutes. I'd like to thank the Elgin Youth Symphony Orchestra, Maud Powell String Quartet. We had Isabel Guerin, Kate Windsor, April Zhang, and Elizabeth Keat. The Maud Powell String Quartet is a premier string quartet of the EYSO, Chamber of Music Institute. Their program is a one-of-a-kind among youth orchestras anywhere and provides a chance to study and perform significant And there we go. I know it's 1 minute to 7, and I get yelled at by Kristen if we start our meeting, early. But I think we could use the extra minute because we have an extra long and extra interesting program tonight. I want to thank and welcome everyone to the annual Mayor's Awards for Preservation. We're excited to have all of you here and to recognize those who have preserved and promoted Elgin's history, its architecture, and cultural resources. My name is John Marston, and I'm the chairman of the Elgin Heritage Commission. And before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge and thank our Heritage and Design Review subcommittee members. First off, Brian Anderson. There you go, Brian. And I want to thank Brian. He has termed out after six long years. His term is up, and I want to thank you for your dedication. And I can't remember a meeting that you missed. Is that good or bad? I think that's an excellent record. Janine Henetsko, Janine here, as the chairman of the Design and Review Committee. He's the hardest working man in preservation. Is that what we call you? Yes. Yes, okay. Mike Burns, where is Mike? There, I knew I saw. Rebecca Hunter, Joey Christ, where's Joey? There she is, and Chrissy Palermo. And I'd like to give a special thanks to Chrissy. She was invaluable tonight helping set up and get everything arranged between the seating and the catering. Thank you very much for all your help tonight. And I want to give a special thanks to Cindy Walden, who works in the Community Development Department and has been the secretary for the Design Review Subcommittee for almost 20 years and is a key member of our Mayor's Awards each year. In June, she'll be retiring, and she will be greatly missed. She is a great resource. I don't think she's ever not been able to answer a question. Well, I'm sure, but not to me, because they're simple questions. But Cindy, will you please stand up so we can give you a round of applause? I'd also like to thank someone who's not here tonight is Kristen Sundquist. She's not here for some baby reason. I don't know what it is. Last Friday, Matt? Last Monday, she's had a little girl, little Nels, and she really looks wise beyond her years already in the picture that Matt sent me. But I still think she's hiding in here to make sure we don't screw up. So.
She's watching online.
Oh, that is great. Now I can't deal with that pressure, Matt. And I also want to thank the council members who are in attendance. Steve Thorne, Councilperson Martinez, John Steffen, and I don't think I missed anyone, did I? Oh, I'm sorry. There's Carol. Well, she gets an award. Well, she gets an award later, so she isn't. I'm sorry, Carol. Where are you? Carol Rauschenberger. There you are. I'm sorry. See, I don't have my glasses on because I know Kristen's watching me, and so. On behalf of the Heritage Commission, we'd also like to thank Frida's Party Room, specifically Rosa Pinion, for all her work of helping us with our event and allowing us to use our historic space. And I'd like to thank Forky Foods for catering this event. Nick Brusky and the Public Works Department, we had to sign, and they made a sign. They put up the signage for parking. I appreciated that. I want to thank John Wiedemeyer, he's over here, for the creation of the plaques. Signs by Tomorrow for the plaque design. And Sue Campbell, all the way back there, hey Sue, for her team of audio and recording tonight's event. So thank you, Sue. I'm just gonna. In 1852, William C. Kimball built the Waverly House to serve the growing number of travelers going to and from Chicago and Galena on the newly opened railroad. The Waverly House had a large dining room, a ballroom that could accommodate 100 dancers, and a rather steep daily rate of $2 a day. Wealthy Chicagoans used the Waverly as a summer resort, and special trains brought guests from the city. The Waverly was sold to the city for use of the jail in 1884, and then later the police headquarters. In later years, the Waverly was used as a factory producing condensed milk and malted milk, and unfortunately the motel was razed in 1917. Nestled close to the public sidewalk, the stables offer a close-up view of the stone and the Neighborhood History Summary was conducted by Heritage Commissioner Rebecca Hunter and our City Historic Preservation Planner, Kristen Sundquist. We're also excited by the upcoming events in 2023. This week kicked off a month-long celebration including events, lectures, and tours that promote preservation in Elgin. You can find a list of events in a brochure that can be found at City Hall, Elgin History and Public Museums, as well as digitally on the city's website and on historicelgin.com. And I believe everybody got a pamphlet when they came in. We also encourage anyone to attend our public meetings. The Heritage Commission meets the first Tuesday of every month, and the Design Review Subcommittee meets every second and fourth Tuesday of the month, both at 6 p.m. in the City Council chambers. Exactly 6 p.m. We start right on time. I've also have a couple of save the dates. Please join the Elgin Heritage Commission, partnering with the Downtown Neighborhood Association for the first car show to be held Sunday, August 6th, just north of Festival Park, as well as the 41st Annual Historic House Tour, which will be in the Neenah neighborhood this year. Last year, we were able to designate our 9th bungalow into the Bungalow Thematic Historic District. The home has had a heritage plaque since 2001, but now it is fully protected for years to come by the designation. The current owners, Jordan Katmeyer and Angelina Diana, purchased their home in 2021 and have a appreciation of the history and architectural significance of their bungalow. 54 South Liberty Street is an excellent example of a craftsman-style bungalow which was popular in the early part of the 1900s due to their size, typically 1.5 stories, and easy access to building materials. They made these houses particularly affordable for the working class. We'd want to thank them for all their efforts in their research and documentation in 54 South Liberty Street. It's a great addition to the Bungalow Thematic Historic District. And will Jordan and Angelina please come forward to get their plaque? Oh, you get a plaque and everything. I got one in the It makes you feel like you've done something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. And we're set to the plaque awards. I'd like to introduce Heritage Commissioner and Architectural Historian Rebecca Hunter.
Hello, thank you, John. It's good to be here. Elgin boasts a wide variety of housing stock. Modest cottages stand next to ornate mansions, and brick flats have been built adjacent to handsome single-family dwellings. This diversity of architecture is associated with Elgin's unique industrial and residential growth. In the mid-19th century, Elgin's two major industries were watchmaking and dairy products. As a result, business owners, managers, and workers lived alongside each other in a mix of homes that today expresses Elgin's rich historical and architectural character. To promote awareness and appreciations of Elgin's unique heritage, the Elgin Heritage Plaque Program was created in 1986. Since then, owners who have completed research on their home's architecture and history are awarded plaques for their efforts. For each selected home, the homeowner is presented with a plaque and certificate that states the date of construction and the original owner's name. In addition, all of the information collected, including photographs and historic documents, are placed on the Elgin Heritage Commission's award-winning Historic Elgin website, accessible not only to our residents, but also to visitors interested in learning more about Elgin as a preservation destination. Tonight, we will present 8 plaques. Our first plaque recipient tonight is 663 Preston Avenue. The home was built by the Andreessen brothers for Frank and Anna Krieger in 1928 for $6,500. Frank was a draftsman and eventually a superintendent at the McBride Lumber Company. The Kriegers only owned the house a few years before selling in 1932 to their oldest child, Martha, and her husband, Edward Werner. The Werners owned the home for 5 years before selling to Adolph and Sylvia Bernstein. Adolph managed the Fin and Feather Farm and its popular Milk Pail restaurant, while helping lead his synagogue and other community organizations. Interestingly, Adolph was a co-founder of the group Elginites for Council Manager in 1953, and their goal was to campaign to implement the council manager form of municipal government. According to the late Mike Alft in his book Elgin, An American History, in April of 1954, Elgin became the first commission-formed city in Illinois to adopt the managerial option by referendum. The home is an excellent example of a 1.5-story Tudor revival cottage with an English stucco finish. Characteristics of this style include the arched entry, large stepped chimney, multi-light windows, and the swooping asymmetrical, steeply pitched front gable. Christina Pila purchased the house in 2021. We'd like to thank Christina for sharing the history of this property with us and for being a wonderful steward for her historical home. Will Christina please come forward and accept her plaque? There you go. Okay, I will. Our next plaque recipient tonight is 425 Ball Street. This home was built in 1908 for Joseph and Caroline Crambier. Joseph was a tailor employed at the Lethen Brothers for 30 years and was an Elgin resident for 37 years. He passed away in 1912 at the age of 58, leaving the home to his wife. Caroline sold the home in 1925 to her son Arthur and his wife Delilah. Thus, the home stayed in the Crambier family until 1971. Interestingly, prior to this home being built, the building across the street was noted to be the first steam-operated butter factory west of the Great Lakes. The company was known as the Elgin Dairy Company. In 1874, the plant's capacity was 2,000 gallons of milk daily, with 144,000 pounds of butter and 190,000 pounds of cheese. The waste from this creamery flowed into Buttermilk Creek and may have given the neighborhood its Slop Hill nickname, which lasted for decades. The home is a nice example of a Dutch colonial revival with its iconic gambrel roof. The house still exhibits its original shingle siding and wood windows. The home was purchased in 1997 by Dan and Rebecca Brandt, who have been mindful of the history and longevity of this home. We'd like to thank Dan and Rebecca for sharing the history of 425 Ball Street. Will you please come forward and accept your plaque? To be famous. Can you, let's get back here.
Somehow.
If you'd like to say something afterwards, you may. He's not here, right? Not here? Yeah. 421 Division Street is our next plaque recipient for tonight. The building was built for Frank and Fanny Preston in 1873. 421 Division is located in the original Elgin Historic District. Frank, a Civil War vet, enlisted in Springfield, Massachusetts as a musician in Company 1 of the 3rd Massachusetts Heavy Artillery, was a resident of Elgin since 1868 and worked at the Elgin National Watch Factory as assistant foreman in the screw and steel department. Preston held a number of subsequent jobs, including business manager of the Bluff City Band, formerly known as the National Watch Factory Band. He then went on to form a musical instrument company and later went to work at the watch case factory. Fanny died in 1885 and Frank remarried in 1886 to Ella Shields. Frank passed away in 1904, with Ella remaining there until 1908 when she sold the home. The home is a nice example of the towered subtype of the Italianate style, reminiscent of the Italian villa. Here, the tower appears at the junction of two wings. Italianate characteristics on the tower include the bell-cast roof, brackets, and dentils. A large coach house and stable is also considered significant and was built in 1892 at a cost of $600. The large hay door is still present. Reynaldo Rodriguez purchased the home in 1982. Unfortunately, Reynaldo is not able to be with us this evening, but we would like to give him a round of applause, and we'll get the plaque to him. 400 Douglas Avenue is our next plaque recipient for tonight. The building is located in the Spring Douglas Historic District. It was built for Frank and Charlotte Zorno and Albert and Lucille Cooper as joint owners in 1929 at a cost of $6,000. Charlotte and Lucille were sisters, but interestingly, the building was called the Lucille Apartments. The building contains 6 luxury apartments, each with 6 rooms, 2 baths, and a garage. Uniquely, Frank Zorno designed the building, though by trade he was a bridge engineer. Due to the stock market crash, the Zornos and Coopers had trouble finding tenants for their high-end apartments and ended up moving into the building themselves. All of them lived in the building for the rest of their lives, and the ownership changed in 1975. The building is an adaptation of the Spanish eclectic style and is considered a significant structure to the neighborhood with its mesmerizing terracotta detailing. The current owners, Mark and Ernestine Rakowski, purchased the building in 1999, and they described it as a diamond in the rough. We want to thank them for all they've done over their 20 years of ownership and for sharing the history of the Lucille Apartments. Will the Rakowski family please come forward and accept your plaque? Yeah, well, squish back here. You want to squish over here? Okay, squish us all in. Do you want to come in front of me?
No, you go in front of me. Come on.
We're good like we are.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
Thank you, Rebecca. Something?
Thanks for all the work you did on the house. It was a lot of work. 1013 Douglas Avenue is our next plaque recipient for tonight. The building was built in 1951 for Ralph and Thelma Fry, and the builder was Severin Swabak. Ralph was an insurance agent owning his own business in the Hubbard Building in downtown Elgin. He married Thelma Rovelstad in 1931, and they had one son, James, who went on to become a successful pharmacist. Before building their dream home, Ralph and Thelma lived at 36 South Commonwealth for 20 years. During that time, Ralph's insurance business was thriving, which helped Ralph and Thelma build 1013 Douglas. Ralph retired in 1967 and passed away in 1977. Thelma remained in the home until she passed in 1991. 1013 Douglas is a great example of the colonial revival style. This style is timeless as its popularity spans decades and is still used in new construction today. The house is considered a contributing structure to the local significance of this historic district. In 2017, Ralph and Lillian Galfie purchased the home and have lovingly cared for it since. Will Rudy and Lillian please come forward and accept your plaque?
Thank you. Would you like to say something?
I know nobody else had the opportunity to say something, but all I want to say is that when we bought this house, it was probably one of the best investments of our lifetime. And, when we went to look at it, it was instantaneously, that we loved the house. The house has great bones, and it's going to be around for a lot longer than we will be, so many generations after us. Thank you. Appreciate it.
.499 River Bluff Road was built in 1925 by contractors Marcus and Louis Guth, who sold the home to Minnie and Albert Heller. Albert was a retired farmer owning a dairy farm in 1910 on Southwater Road, and then he farmed on Larkin Avenue. The Hellers remained in the home until 1937, when it was sold to Julio and Esther Notolini, who owned the home until 1976. The current owners, John and Beth Small, bought this house in 1990. They just happened to see an open house, went in, and immediately fell in love with the home. They had a bit of trouble when their little starter home on Cooper sold quickly, and the husband of the owner of 499 River Bluff was in Europe and needed to sign off on the title. Luckily, fax machines had just become popular. The home is considered a craftsman-style bungalow and is considered contributing to the overall historic significance of the area. Outstanding features include coin work on the corners, soldier course caps over the windows, stone sills, fascia boards, exposed rafter tails, knee walls, and a brick and stone chimney. There's an arts and crafts muntin door and a deep open porch which extends half the width of the house. We'd like to thank John and Beth for their 30-plus year stewardship of this bungalow and for sharing its history. Will John and Beth please come forward to accept your plaque? Do you want to say something? Go ahead.
I just want to say, I grew up in a bungalow over on Arlington Avenue. I was just telling Rebecca about this earlier, and I've always sort of been attracted to the brick bungalow, and we happened to be going through the north end and saw this, and yes, immediately at an open house, and just had to have it. Anyway, thank you.
The Blakemore Flats, located at 320 North Street, was built in 1904 for Margaret Eleanor Blakemore as rental property for $5,000. Ms. Blakemore never lived here, and eventually her daughter Hazel inherited the property and continued ownership until 1969 when she passed away. The home is considered a Chicago-style brick two-flat, which were primarily built between 1900 through 1920. They typically feature face brick on the front elevation and common brick on side and rear elevations, bay windows, a projecting porch, flat roof with a decorative cornice. Although this style two-flat is widespread in Chicago, it is rare in Elgin. The current owner, Chloe Burkhart, purchased the property in 2022 and has already hit the ground running with the property's restoration, including the rehabilitation of the rear enclosed addition, and her plans to paint the cornice and windows while installing new appropriate storm windows. In the future, she also plans to bring back the historic Doric column-style front entry that was removed and enclosed in the 1980s. We'd like to thank Chloe for all of her efforts in the restoration and rehabilitation of this property and for researching and sharing the Blakemore Flats history. Will Chloe please come forward and accept your plaque?
You want to say something?
I think I'm okay.
I should have.
861 to 863 West Highland Avenue was built in 1909 for Henry Platt as an income property. This building is the twin of 860 to 62 Larkin, which was built in 1908. Both were designed by notable Elgin architect William Wright Abel, who designed over 100 architecturally significant buildings in Elgin between 1891 and 1915. It was also built by notable contractor Henry Jensen and Sam Smith. Luckily for us, Jensen made incredibly detailed hand-drawn renderings and plans for many of the structures he built beginning in 1898. These are available at the Elgin History Museum as well as scanned on the Illinois Digital Archives. Both buildings are considered significant due to their association with W.W. Abel and Henry Jensen. This stucco duplex is a pristine example of the Prairie style, which enjoyed popularity from the 1900s well into the 1920s. The style is defined by a low-pitched hipped roof with wide eaves on a predominantly two-story structure with one-story wings or porches, massive porch supports, and facade detailing emphasizing the horizontal line. In addition to the Prairie-style elements, a whimsical element is provided by lion's head downspouts for the porch guttering. Carol Rauschenberger and her son Sam purchased the property in 2022. They are longtime residents of Elgin and are committed to the preservation of Elgin's historic buildings. Carol sits on the City Council and is a firm supporter of historic preservation and sustainability. This is Sam's first foray into property ownership, and he's excited about the opportunity to live in and preserve a historic building. We'd like to thank Carol and Sam for sharing the history of this significant structure, and we're excited about the projects they have planned for restoration in the future. Will Carol and Sam please come forward and accept your plaque?
Did you want to say something? Change your places.
We're very excited to get our plaque today. First, I want to say thank you to Rebecca Hunter because she helped us get the plaque and did all the research for us, as I know she's done for many other people. So thank you, Rebecca. I want you to know that my son Sam, when I asked him what he wanted for his birthday, after we purchased this house, he wanted a plaque for his new two-flat. So I want to say the Burkharts and the Rauschenbergers have done a pretty good job in making sure that their kids are interested in preserving history and beautiful old houses, and we need to be passing that on to our next generation. And the other thing I want to say about these buildings, I do believe that old buildings and structures and homes are history that we can see every day when we drive down the street. And they're also sort of part of a collective memory. When I told anybody that Sam and I had purchased a two-flat on the west side of town, they were like, oh yeah, where? I said, just drive down Highland Avenue and think about the two matching gray two-flats that are, perfect twins of each other. And almost everybody I knew could remember what those two houses were, where, the Highland goes off with Larkin, right? So there's a memory, everyone, even my brother who hasn't lived in Elgin for years and years and years, knew exactly which building I was talking about. Unfortunately, we could only buy the building on the right. We couldn't afford the building on the left, but we're very happy to have it. And I think the other thing I want to say is these were built as apartment flats. And I'm hoping that Sam does live in one side, but we are renting out the other side, and we intend to be good landlords and to make sure that there are beautiful old houses for everyone to live in. And I want to just say that over the years, many people lived in the flats, including Edward Eckvall, president of W.H. Howell in Geneva, William Pierce, attorney, Herman Juby, president of Hawthorne Hardware, Sally Howell, M.D., and James Howell, Loyola professor of law. So there are many great tenants that we are honoring this evening as well. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here to celebrate our newest historic plaques. At this point, I'd like to turn the podium back over to John Marston.
Before I hand it over to the mayor, I just want to go back and cover up that when I was announcing the members of the committee, I forgot to mention that we finally have got some new members. We've got Christina Pila. Christina, I know you're here. Tanya Lachetti. Tanya, are you here? And then Chloe Burkhart, who has just received a plaque, is now on design review. So I just want to welcome them and say that every meeting is not like this. Mr. Mayor, I broke the microphone before you get up here, so I'll let you deal with it. And now on for the Mayor's Awards for Preservation, Mayor Dave Captain. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Marston. Our efforts to restore, preserve, and promote our rich heritage through tireless efforts of passionate property owners, professional contractors, and dedicated volunteers have greatly contributed to the beautification of this city. And so tonight, we celebrate and honor the 2023 Mayor's Awards recipients for their dedication, hard work, commitment to historic preservation. Nominated by their peers for their extraordinary work, they prove that Elgin's civic pride in its heritage is alive and well. The first award this evening will go to the Hummingbird Group for their sensitive rehabilitation of the 1898 home located at 120 Tennyson Court. When Roberto and Jose Luis purchased the property in 2016, the home was about to be was what may be considered a lady in waiting. It was covered in non-original siding and the porch altered to a simplistic design. Overall, the property looked tired and unnoticeable. While working with city staff and the design review subcommittee, Roberto, Jose, and Lilia got right to work, first starting with the front porch. They borrowed elements from a historic photograph of a similar property to recreate an ornate balustrade and square columns with decorative brackets, bringing a renewed life to one of the main features of the home. With the help of a historic rehabilitation grant in 2017, they were able to not only rehab the front and side porches, but also continued restoration work by removing the substitute siding and restoring the original clapboard siding underneath. Scraping and painting the entire home in a new vibrant paint scheme and installing period-appropriate half-round gutters. Despite selling the property a few years ago, the home has been a wonderful asset to what may be considered a hidden street along Tennyson Court since their rehabilitation. Thank you for all of your hard work in preserving the historic characteristics of this property and improving the streetscape along Tennyson Court. Will Roberto please come forward and accept your award? Not here tonight? Okay, we'll save his award and make sure that he receives it. Our next award tonight is for the Illinois Firefighter Memorial Plaza for the construction of a, excuse me, I'm out of sync here. Next award is for Full Circle Communities for the development and rehabilitation of 1212 Larkin Avenue, historically known as the Larkin Home for Children, built in 1912. The 1212 Larkin redevelopment is an exemplary model of providing affordable housing and preserving historic buildings grounded in extensive public participation. As the site was designated a local landmark in 2004, the project team had to devise an innovative approach that would preserve the two historic buildings while constructing 12 new two-story residential buildings that not only fit the neighborhood contextually, but the historic nature of the site. Full Circle Communities and their architect, Corrigan Clark and Associates, worked closely with city planners and the Elgin's Design Review Committee to provide a neo-traditional design where the new buildings engage the street through prominent front porches and entrance features. Each of the buildings were purposely designed and sited to be different from the others to provide the appearance of a neighborhood that evolved. Over time, the development will act much like the property did historically, continually helping persons in a place where they feel safe and where they can invest in their relationships and their neighborhood. We'd like to thank Full Circle Communities for investing in Elgin and creating an impactful and thoughtful development within this historic neighborhood. Will representatives of Full Circle Communities please come forward and accept your award? Good to see you again.
Thank you so much.
Like to say a few words while you're here? Our Our next award for tonight is for the Illinois Firefighter Memorial Plaza for the construction of a sensitive memorial plaza that recognizes past, present, and future firefighters located at the Elgin National Elgin National Historic District's Fire Barn Museum. The Illinois Firefighter Memorial Plaza pays homage to the current firefighters and honors those who have come before them. The plaza is located in front of the historic Fire Barn No. 5 Museum on St. Charles Street, right in the heart of the National Watch Factory Historic District. The idea of a memorial plaza had been discussed for 40 years. In 2017, private fundraising was started to reach this goal. On November 5th, 2022, the goal of $170,000 was reached, and construction began. The plaza consists of a fountain, engraved bricks, plaques with the names of those who gave their lives in service, and a sculpture of a fireman holding an axe looking down St. Charles Street. The placement of this sculpture cannot be missed and reminds Elginites that the Elgin Fire Department has been protecting this city since its first brigade was founded in 1867. Elgin Fire Barn No. 5 was the first firehouse built for horse-drawn carriages and converted to a museum in 1991. It is on the National Register of Historic Places and was the second building to receive local landmark designation in Elgin. The memorial enhances the historic site, reminds the public of the service and sacrifices provided by all fire departments. Thank you to all involved in this monumental effort. Will representatives of the Illinois Firefighter Memorial Plaza please come forward and accept your award.
Thank you.
You guys like to say a few words?
Well, thank you to the commission and to the mayor for recognizing the efforts that got us to this point where we have this memorial. Retired Elgin Fire Chief Mike Felice and retired Elgin Fire Chief Dave Schmidt were both the really two visionaries who started this project, as the mayor stated, to rejuvenate the idea of building such a memorial. And so I'd like to turn this over to Chief Felice, but I'd also like to just say, if you haven't been down to the plaza, on May 20th at 10 a.m. is our annual Firefighter Memorial Ceremony, which is held on the plaza, which would be a great time for you to come out and see it and celebrate the lives and careers of people who gave their life in the fire service throughout their career. So, Chief Mike Felice.
Being in this room with a lot of really serious, dedicated, passionate Elginites is pretty powerful. We started a Firefighters Memorial Service in 1994 in the Elgin Fire Department, and we included the neighboring fire departments because we provided a leadership role to the area fire service because of the resources of the city of Elgin and the dedication of a lot of the Elgin firefighters. And we started that memorial service to recognize firefighters that served in the 8 or 9 departments that participated, as well as honoring the firefighters that were killed in the line of duty in the state of Illinois. And we average about 7 to 8 of those every single year. And a lot of those happen in cities far away from Elgin in Illinois that you don't hear about in the news and everything. But we felt it was important to recognize those. And so this plaza was a dream for a long time. And we also found that as we had that memorial service every year, we had family members coming back that had lost their moms and or their fathers, their uncles, their moms had served in the fire service. And with the recognition of those line of duty deaths, there's over 920 of them going back to 1857. And every one of those firefighters is memorialized there. So thank you for the recognition of that, but this is something for the city of Elgin. It's unique to the Elgin area, it's unique to Illinois, it's unique to the Midwest. There's nothing like it with the service that we do with this plaza. So thank you very much.
Our Our next award is presented to the Friends of Lords Park Zoo for their continued dedication offering free public programs at the zoo every summer, and for the hard work to officially designate the zoo's interior as Tefts Farm Zoo in June of 2022. Known simply as Lords Park Zoo for over 125 years, it was long forgotten that the land on which it was situated was originally owned by an early Elginite, Dr. Joseph Teft. To honor his legacy, in 2020, Friends of the Lords Park Zoo requested the city officially designate the zoo interior as Tefts Farm Zoo. Over the next 2 years, the organization worked with the city to research and develop signage relating to the zoo's property's history. In early 2022, Tefts Farm Zoo was officially dedicated that drew over 400 people. In addition to this project, the Friends of Lords Park Zoo generously sponsors numerous free public programs inside the zoo every summer, partnering with the Elgin Public Museum, Elgin History Museum, Chamber Music on the Fox, Side Street Studios, and Gail Borden Public Library. They have had a long and incredibly positive impact on Elgin while advocating Elgin's cultural and historic past, and it's worthy of this recognition. Will representatives of the Lords Park Zoo please come forward and accept your award?
Makes more sense that you...
Say a few words.
Okay, a little bit. Yeah. I'll try to make it brief. Well, I like to thank people. I know that we've all heard the phrase many times that it takes a village. And clearly, anything successful in life does. I'd like to take a moment, though, to show how broad that really is. I'd like to thank Sherry Blazer for the nomination, the Elgin Heritage Commission for the award, David Siegenthaler from the Elgin Historical Society for his extensive research on the Teft Farm, Parks and Recreation and the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, Public Service staff, Greg Holke, Mike Adams, crew leader of Lords Park, and the Elgin City Council, and the more than 20 FLPZ volunteers that volunteer at the zoo each summer. I encourage everyone here to check out the more than 30 free programs which span the range from preschool through adult and Teft Farm this summer from June 3rd to August 13th. But who was Joseph Teft? You've heard a little bit about him. Elgin historian Mike Elft wrote that he was one of the 3 most important people in Elgin's history. But the only thing that you can find aside from the sign in Teft Farm is there's a street named after him. It's very short. But Marge, could you say a few words about him?
Dr. Teft's contributions to Elgin are probably so long and so many that it would take up too much time to go into all of them this evening. But as Terry said, David Siegenthaler wrote an extensive 2-part essay on Dr. Teft that is published in the January and March 2018 Cracker Barrel. So I encourage you to read that to learn more. But some of his accomplishments: he arrived from New York with his family in 1835. He practiced medicine in and around Elgin for 40 years and was the first president of the Fox River Medical Association. In 1854, he became Elgin's first mayor, and he will serve 5 terms. He owned the land that would become the first 50 acres of the now 120-plus acre Lords Park, and this land was his dairy farm. His cows produced the first milk sent to Chicago that would lead to the establishment of the Elgin Board of Trade, and the board will influence milk, butter, cheese prices throughout the Midwest. He was the first president of the Board of Trade, as well as involved in many dairy associations in and around Elgin. His cows were so prized, and his heifers, that many of them were listed in his probate record along with their value. He was also involved in the Fox River Valley Railroad Company and the McHenry Railroad Company. Dr. Teft was the president of the Elgin Academy Board for 33 years and was instrumental in the building of what we all know now as Old Main.
Our next award goes to Mark and Ernestine Rakowski for their continued preservation and over 20 years of ownership of the historic 1929 Lucille Apartments located within the Spring Douglas Historic District. Mark and Ernestine purchased the property over 20 years ago and have thoughtfully rehabbed and extensively restored the interior and exterior of the historic Lucille Apartments. Built at a high cost with its 6 luxury dwellings, the building had fallen on hard times due to neglect before being purchased by the current owners. The Rakowski family, working as a team, have done much work themselves, including plumbing repairs, replacing steam traps on radiators, stripping and refinishing doors, and built-in furniture, removing paint from a terracotta fireplace and carpentry. The family also sought out preservation specialists for the restoration of the front terracotta entrance, including matching a historic photograph to recreate the light posts, repaired the first floor lintels, replaced cracked bricks, rebuilt the chimney, replaced non-original garage doors with appropriate doors. In addition, at the interior terracotta walls and the stairwell were thoroughly cleaned, bringing back the original luster. The family is dedicated to finding the right experts to help with preserving and restoring original details of this significant structure. Their hard work did not go unnoticed. Will Mark and Ernestine please come forward and accept your award? They also agreed to be in the house walk, so it'll be an opportunity to go take a look at the building itself. So there'll be a lot of cleaning going on over there as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So you're welcome.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Our next award is presented to Matthew Martin for donating his time and architectural services for the 1846 Nancy Kimball cobblestone home located at 302 West Chicago Street, as well as for his volunteerism leading the Elgin Historic District Tour as chairman when there were hard discussions of the tour continuing during the pandemic. As a licensed architect and historic preservation supporter, Matt Martin offered his services to the Elgin History Museum pro bono and worked directly to manage the contractors during their construction. He designed the front and rear porches with the help of historic photographs and maps. Matt also made computer renderings to help the Elgin History Museum appropriately choose the new paint scheme. The back porch was a complicated and challenging design project. Matt patiently worked through each problem to build a grand staircase to a spacious deck next to a sympathetic lift addition, creating a lasting legacy for a significant historic building. The Elgin House Tour has also benefited from Matt's time, energy, and creativity. At a time of transition for the tour, including years during the pandemic, Matt offered his leadership to chair the event. In 2022, he and his family also offered to add their home to the tour during major renovation as a work in progress. Matt and House Tour team came up with new ideas like a virtual tour in 2020, virtual booklet in 2021, and a Friday night preview for docents. Matt's dedication and volunteerism to Elgin history is inspiring, and we'd like to thank him for all of his work. Matt, will you please come forward and accept your award?
Congratulations.
That's my photo.
Sure.
As you can imagine, I can't quite build everything myself, nor give a tour myself, so there's a lot of people to thank here. Very much like to thank the city of Elgin, who bought the cobblestone house and then made an agreement with the Elgin History Museum. It's a big partnership between the city and the History Society to get that going, and also like a 6 to 8 year process so far. Elgin History Museum, Guilford Park Association, and the House Touring Steering Committee, House Captains, Docent, and Tour Goers. It's a big operation, and I thank all of you. You make me on a night tonight look very good. I'd like to thank my wife, Kristen, who's not here. For the cobblestone, it's been a long, really rewarding role working with Liz Marston, Bill Biska, the rest of the board. Special thanks to Matt Falco, Greg Moon, and Mike Pubens at the City of Elgin. Between the construction of the front porch and the back porch, the building got rezoned from residential to commercial. So it shifted codes completely, and we had to have egress requirements that made it really hard to get things done. For the house tour, it's one of those things that I look forward to every year because I get to meet a ton of people throughout the city, and it makes me just kind of remember what makes Elgin special, and I hope it makes people remember or learn what has made Elgin special. We're now in our 41st year, and I think we're making a little bit of history on our own. I'd also like to thank the Guilford Park Association as well as the History Museum for being a steward of both of these projects. It's nice to just be a part of the history of the House Museum and help open up another chapter for the Cobblestone House. 2 more quick thank yous and a quick story and then I'm done. For the Cobblestone House, the contractor for the front porch was Scott Savell with All Around Home Improvement. Incredibly good resource, has been just a savior for me a couple times. And also that project took some twists and turns to connect the porch to the house. Because it's made of cobblestones, it's not that sturdy. We had to reach out to Hilti Corporation, who is a large provider of anchor systems. And Scott asked the engineers how we're going to anchor this porch to this house, and is there any resource you have of using these anchors on something like this? And the only thing they could point to is a study they did of a 1600s chapel in Italy. Apparently that's as close as we could come. And then the contractor for the back porch was Manuel Roa, incredibly hardworking. He's been out there day and night. I'm really excited to see that get painted in the spring here. If you don't know it, because of the zoning change and the building code change, the back porch had to then meet all the ADA standards of a modern-day building and a public building. So the project has an ADA lift from the parking lot to the second floor. It also is going to be a nice event space in the back on the deck. So I'm incredibly thankful to be the steward of these projects and to work with some amazingly talented and hardworking people. So thank you very much.
Our next award is presented to Mike and Corey Lago for their sensitive rehabilitation of 160 Lovell Street. Mike and Corey purchased the home in March of 2021 and got right to work. The Queen Anne-style home was built in 1898 and is located within the Spring Douglas Historic District. Over the years, the home has had some insensitive alterations, including the enclosure of its front porch, installation of concrete stairs and non-original handrails, as well as an uninviting chain-link fence. The home's colors made it blend in and its wonderful details muted. When Mike and Corey purchased the home, they saw the potential and were excited to change this unassuming home into a gem on Lovell Street. In 2022, the Lagos received a historic rehabilitation grant, which included the rehabilitation of the front entry, front porch steps, side entry, as well as a new paint scheme. Mike and Corey went above and beyond this by fixing not only the sidewalk and the landscaping around the home, but also replaced the chain link fence with a new ornamental fence and installed half-round gutters. This transformation has had an incredibly positive impact to not only the home, but as well to the streetscape and the neighborhood. We'd like to thank Mike and Corey for all of their hard work and determination in transforming 160 Lovell into an eye-catching historic home. Mike and Corey unfortunately could not be here tonight, but have noted their many thanks to the Historic Commission and to the City of Elgin for this award, and will make sure they receive their award. Our next award is presented to the Preservation of Affordable Housing for their extensive rehabilitation of the 1899 Abbey C. Wing School located at 260 Center Street. Built in 1899, the Abbey Wing Public School was named after Abbey Wing, who dedicated her life to education. Abbey was married to William Wing, of whom was also a well-known Elginite and attorney. Their home is a local landmark located at 972 West Highland Avenue, which unfortunately had a fire in 1897 that took Abby's life. The school was named for her memory and has been a cornerstone to Kimball Avenue and Center Street since it was first constructed. It remained a school until the 1980s, when it was converted to multi-family housing, along with some insensitive alterations, including shortening the windows and the alteration of its entrances. Since then, it was in an unassuming structure that many have forgotten about until 2021, when Preservation of Affordable Housing purchased the building. They stepped forward with the foresight of rehabbing this building back to what it was historically, bringing in more light into the units by installing new windows and entrances and rehabbing the interior, ultimately creating a more inviting, eye-catching facade and better living spaces. Preservation of Affordable Housing hired WJW Architects, Henry Brothers Company, and used home funds from the Kane Elgin Home Consortium and city block grant funds from the City of Elgin. Although this is not a protected landmark, it is considered a significant property, and the rehab work that was done is more than deserving of a mayor's award. Will representatives of the Preservation of Affordable Housing please come forward and accept your award? Say a few words? Our next award is presented to Greg Halke for promoting and organizing the complete restoration of the Snow Mausoleum constructed in 1919 at Bluff City Cemetery. Gilbert Snow was the superintendent of the Elgin Wind, Power, and Pump Company, which manufactured Elgin windmills for many years. He is best known for inventing a self-oiling windmill engine that only needed maintenance once a year instead of weekly. The mausoleum is considered a local marker at the cemetery and unfortunately had suffered deterioration. Mausoleums are privately owned, but the City of Elgin stepped forward to restore the crumbling building, taking the time and money to copy the original technique with the help of Marion Restoration. The construction consists of randomly laid granite stone with a red bead joint and gable concrete roof. The mausoleum is now a safe and secure structure for another 100 years. The cemetery could have left this private structure to further deteriorate or knock it down for safety, but they went to the trouble and cost of a full restoration. This thoughtful restoration is commendable and worthy of a mayor's award, with many thanks to Greg Halke. Will Greg please come forward and receive your award? Say a couple words?
I want to say thank you on behalf of city staff as well as myself. I want to thank the Heritage Commission for this honor. I also need to thank the Elgin City Council for their support and funding. Without their continued support, city staff would not have the ability to preserve the many historic structures throughout Elgin, and specifically for me, the cemetery. There are many mausoleums in the cemetery that are privately owned, that were privately installed decades ago, but as they've been aging, as they age, private upkeep becomes pretty much less and less likely. As a city, I think we need to step up and help keep these historic structures in good shape to maintain the beauty of the cemetery for the decades to come. Myself, and I think as the other staff members of the city, we don't look at projects like this, expecting to get some sort of recognition. I know we all look at it as this is a necessity of something that we need to do to continue preserving the rich history in the city of Elgin. So I do want to thank Liz Marston as well as Kristen Sundquist for helping me get through this process because it was a lot of fun. I would also be remiss if I did not thank the staff at Bluff City Cemetery. Jenny Burke, my admin down at the cemetery, is there every day along with Rick Ellis, keeping the cemetery running in tip-top shape. Mark Christofferson and his company, Professional Cemetery Services, keeps the grounds at the cemetery in amazing condition. And also, finally, I have to thank Mario Machnicki of Marion Restoration for doing an amazing job with this mausoleum and working with myself and the staff there as we work on plans to maintain the rest of the mausoleums that are in the cemetery there as well. So again, thank you for this honor, and I look forward to working on more projects like this in the future. Thank you.
Our last award this evening goes to Trish LaFleur for her years of volunteering as the graphic designer for the Gifford Park Association, leading the design and updates of their website, but as well as the time-consuming task of creating the annual Elgin Historic House Tour booklets. For 8 years, she has volunteered her time and countless hours for the design and printing of the GPA's house tours booklets, postcards, and posters. This is a very labor-intensive job that often is overlooked, though, and the booklets have become cherished collector's items. She also oversees the GPA's publicity as its committee chair. She has completed and continues to put in a tremendous amount of work to their website and social media, allowing for more residents, soon-to-be residents, and visitors to learn not only about the Gifford Park Association and the Elgin Historic District, but as well about other historic treasures we have here in Elgin. Her unique perspective and dedication to Elgin's historic resources and her neighborhood is inspiring, and we would look to thank her for all of her hard work. Will Trish please come forward and accept your award? You want to say a few words? You know, you volunteered for another decade.
Thank you. First off, I want to thank Kristen Sundquist for nominating me. Thanks, Kristen, at home. Secondly, I want to thank everyone who's involved with the Gifford Park Association, past and present. It's your example that motivates me to want to do this work and make my neighborhood the best that it can possibly be. And I love working on the house tour because it's such a great event. It really shows Elgin's commitment to preservation, and it shows off our beautiful houses. And hey, who doesn't like being nosy in other people's houses? And lastly, I want to thank my family, John, Morgan, and Reese, for always supporting me. Thank you very much.
At this point, I'll turn it back to Chairman Marston for closing comments.
Thank you, Mayor Captain. Once again, on behalf of the Elgin Heritage Commission, I'd like to thank all our recipients and nominators tonight for all your efforts in providing and promoting Elgin history and architecture. Like I said, thank you for being here. And events like this may remind me why preservation is important. A sense of place. A sense of place is the soul of Elgin. The city of Elgin, with the help of GPA and other neighborhood organizations, realized that history and architecture are major assets to the city. This asset is tangible and intangible. The tangible aspect is that the preserved and restored houses found throughout Elgin, concentrating in the historic districts. Gifford Park gives an eclectic selection of architectural styles from Queen Anne, Italianate to Gothic, all preserved to as closely as they were when they were originally built. The Spring Douglas District gives us grand homes that showcase where the well-to-do lived at the turn of the century. D.C. Cook Historic District gives a sense of a growing city where houses became less grand, but shows a rise of a strong middle class that took pride in their homes. The Bungalow District continues this rise of the middle class. Throughout the 1920s, solid, distinct bungalow houses sprung up in Elgin. Many of these houses are approaching their 100th birthday, and they're so well built and designed that there's no reason not to last another 100 years. The Elgin National Watch Factory District is a perfect example of a sense of place. Driving through this district, you can see and feel what Elgin was and what Elgin is. Well-built working men homes that overlooked the factory that dominated Elgin for years. Quality and dependability was what Elgin watches stood for, and the people who work there must be celebrated and preserved. The intangible aspect of preservation is the most important. The people in this room realize that we aren't owners of homes, we are the stewards. Unfortunately, our efforts are just a seed, and like a tree, the work we do today will not be noticed for years down the line. But we know that the seed we plant today will grow into a better Elgin, the way our future is through the past. Pennies spent this year and in the upcoming years equate into dollars in the future. Historic districts make stronger neighborhoods, and they preserve a sense of place and the soul of a city. When you drive through the watch factory, you feel what it was for those people who worked in that factory. And on the other side, preservation also raises all home values. Historically, it's shown that study after study shows that if you have a strong historic district and preservation, those housing markets benefit. Preservationists don't do what they do for awards and recognition. They do it to keep a sense of place, a soul of the city alive. Thank you. Have a good night, and thank you for coming up tonight. I fixed it. And please be careful crossing the street.